soup! Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me I have some more RPG horror stories. Not that I'm gonna be trying to stream more, I'm trying to think what I want to do. Like, obviously I could just play games and that should be easy, but I kind of feel like on this channel I should do something roleplay and RPG related, you know? I can't play Baldur's Gate all day. I mean, I guess I could, but I still want to do something different. Maybe we'll do some streams where I come up with different homebrew, where we can come up with ideas together, where you can watch me struggle coming up with dumb ideas because I am a kind of an idiot, honestly. While I think of ideas for our streams, let's get to this video and some RPG horror stories for today. 15-minute flashback cutscene for NPC death. I don't think there was anything grandiose to be called a horror story, but it was definitely uncomfortable. We were playing an RPG called RPGHorrorStories Paranormal, a mystery and paranormal investigation system heavily focused on combat, something like Dungeons & Dragons with Lovecraftian elements. The players take on the role of agents of a secret organization that fights against supernatural forces. From the beginning of the campaign, the atmosphere was tense. 6 agents, complete strangers to each other, were sent to a remote town in the US to investigate a series of disappearances and possible dark cult. We were already in the 7th session, and last 3 had been a disaster. There were frequent arguments between players, atmosphere at the table was always heavy, we had faced 2 near TPKs, we only survived by sheer luck. Then, the tragedy happened. One of the players was infected by kind of a blood-borne curse virus, which amplified his emotions to an absurd degree. The character who was already naturally withdrawn and hostile became an aggressive lone wolf, threatening to kill anyone who came near him. At one point, he even attacked my character. Our priority shifted to finding the cult's laboratory to try to cure him before he turned into some kind of a blood beast. We headed to a hospital pretending to be accompanying one of our members, an elderly man who needed a consultation. While trying to explore the place, I ended up encountering a terrifying enemy in the hospital's empty cafeteria, a zombie ghost child, capable of permanently draining a player's sanity, similar to the Call of Cthulhu system. Panicked, my character grabbed the radio to warn the others, but somehow the frequency was turned to hospital security team. Our frequency was private, no one knows how this happened. When I realized it, I tried to improvise a coded message that only my teammates would understand. Emergency, pizza. The table laughed at how ridiculous it was, but one of the security guards completely misinterpreted it. He thought it was a code for a terrorist attack, no one knows why to this day, and from that moment on, everything fell apart. Managed to capture the zombie child without being noticed, but right afterwards the GM told us there was a security camera in the area, something we only realized after we had already secured the child. Few moments later, the security guard who was with me decided to check the footage, convinced that he needed to find the terrorists. My character tried to calm him down, convincing him there was no terrorist, but he completely ignored me. Time ran out. Just as we were about to leave, the security guard found us in a parking lot and opened fire. One of them instantly took down one of our allies. In desperation, my character cast a spell against them, and the GM narrated that the security guards were completely vaporized by the explosion of energy. Once again, another security camera had caught everything. And then came the part that stuck with me. Oh my god, is that a thing? You just vaporize? Can you just vaporize security guards in that game? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe they have like low HP. But anyway, all this build up is finally for the 15-minute flashback death scene. Are you ready? Cause I'm ready. Let's see this. My girlfriend, who I had invited to play, was new to RPGs. At the beginning of the next session, the GM started narrating the story of a woman none of us knew. He described her life, that of her husband, a man named Nicholas, who had served in the war and struggled with many problems, but deeply loved his wife. The GM asked my girlfriend to play the role of this woman. Without fully understanding what was happening, she agreed. What followed was over 15 minutes of an incredibly uncomfortable scene. The GM meticulously described their couple's relationship, incorporating small details that my girlfriend and I actually used in real life. Pinky promises, affectionate nicknames, little intimate interactions. Then came the dialogue between the narrator and her, how she missed him, how she watched him leave for war, how she feared he would never return, how he finally came back and found a job as a security guard in a hospital, bringing some stability to their lives, and finally, how on that specific morning, he woke up late for work, the exact day she had planned to tell him she was pregnant. And then the scene ended, because Nicholas was one of the NPCs my character had killed the night before. Am I being too sensitive? Because I think this is weird. Is this a gag from you, DM? Because I don't understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to make you feel bad over killing an NPC, even though they shot first and you fired back after. Like, I mean, like, yeah, you gotta kill a bunch of NPCs that have lives. They're probably gonna be having, you know, raising children with spouses. But just because I kill a random goblin in the middle of the woods that probably has a family and grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren, have an entire lineage of different goblins, doesn't mean I'm gonna start like having my DM narrate to me that they had such a lineage of children that will never see their father again or something. Like, is this like a gag? Genuinely, I need to know, is this a gag, or is your DM actually trying to make you feel bad, or is this their attempt at trying to make a deeper story writing for an NPC character that will not matter within 10 minutes? Like, yes, maybe they will matter, maybe, potentially, but why do we need this context? Also, why are you making, why is your girlfriend need to play? Is it because she's the only woman at the table or something? Or maybe it's a bit? It has to be a bit. It has to be a bit, because otherwise it's just weird. What is the point of describing this? If it's for a character that matters, sure, but if it's for a guard you guys end up killing after they fired shots at you, does it matter? Does that story specifically matter for them? Yeah, I would say you need to ask your DM what was the purpose of it. Because if the purpose is just to make you guys feel bad, then okay, but why? Why spend time writing all this and role-playing for 15 minutes to get the session started? It has to have been a bit. It has to have been a bit. The DM was just trying to make you just feel bad for the funny. Either way, honestly, ignore it unless it comes up again. Maybe just a shtick this DM does so much. I don't know. Maybe this is like your DM's comedy or something. I would just ask him, was it supposed to be funny or is it sad on purpose, and what was the purpose of it? Honestly, ask him that. I'm gonna get to the next story for today, hopefully with no NPCs dying for no reason, with a 15-minute flashback of how they're losing their, you know, the husband and father that will never be there again. Oh. The idea of my character died. If only the character died too. Before we begin, I would like to say that all people involved are my dear friends, and I do not wish for any hate towards the people involved. Well, here goes. The campaign was a 3-shot by a good friend of mine, and besides me, a live domain cleric female elf, there were 3 more of my friends whose classes and race are irrelevant to the story. In the first session, we arrived on an island and quickly figured out that we were in a dread domain of some sort that was ruled over by the evil king, that once conquered the land for reasons yet unknown to us. Shortly after our arrival, we were ambushed by a group of wraiths, and me being a cleric surrounded by undead creatures, I went with a good old combo of spirit guardians and turn undead on later turns. My moment of glory did not last long, however, because on second round I was an unfortunate victim of a later admitted not so random crit for far too much damage for me to be able to pass my concentration saving throw. And the fight went on. I healed myself out from critical health and did the only logical thing, cast turn undead. To my surprise, vast majority of my mobs failed their save and were thus forced to run away from me. This, however, created a problem as the DM had cooked up a story where this was not supposed to happen. The wraiths at this point were very far away, were quickly replaced by another pack of wraiths that in just one turn were all instantly killed by a shaman NPC appeared out of nowhere, and thus, quote-unquote, saving us. Wait a minute, that's stupid. If you're gonna have a DMPC come in and quote-unquote save you guys, why not make it surrounded by non-undead? You have a cleric that has turn undead. Why would they not want to use turn undead? Player has the features. They use the feature. Oh no, the humanity. What do you expect, DM? Of course they're gonna use the feature. A fighter has action surge. They're gonna use action surge. To expect a fighter to not action surge is, well, I mean, that's on you at this point. Same thing with Barbarian. What do you think Barbarian's gonna do? Everybody guess. What is Barbarian gonna do? Rage. Barbarian is gonna rage because that's what Barbarian does. Rages. What is Warlock gonna do? Eldritch Blast. What is Rogue gonna do? Sneak attack. Like, it's just a normal thing for your cleric to use. I mean, especially since your cleric can use the 3rd level spells and stuff. Of course they're gonna use Spirit Guardians, and of course they're gonna use Turn Undead. If you didn't want them to be able to use Turn Undead, don't give them undeads to fight. Make monstrosities, constructs, literally anything other than undead. Giving cleric undeads to fight is like their bread and butter. They're great at that stuff. Also, I'm not defending the DM in this situation. Setting up a plot point where your party gets rescued by a DMPC is not a good thing to do. If it has to happen, that's fine. But focusing on making something happen forcefully without letting your players' freedom go on and just allow your cleric to just turn undead everybody. Don't plan for failure. I recently went through something similar. Basically, there was a plot. I'm not going to go into too much detail. There was a plot point. There was a MacGuffin. There was a thing that was supposed to happen. I, as a player character, didn't want it to happen because I was being cautious, but it had to happen anyway. So my attempts to try to have any player agency to stop it from happening or affecting my player character was thwarted because story. And there's nothing worse than when things have to happen because story, because that takes away all player agency. Oh, you guys are supposed to be ambushed because you're supposed to be rescued by the NPC, or you're supposed to die because somebody's supposed to come in and rescue you. Oh, you are supposed to go to this room and be stuck here so that somebody else can let you out. I don't like that sort of thing. I am not a fan of that sort of thing. Sometimes it's perfectly fine to not have a forced situation just to introduce your new DMPC to rescue the party. Sometimes it's fine to let the party rescue themselves and meet the DMPC later on without this forced encounter. Nothing is wrong with a forced encounter. It's like a forced cutscene, and forced cutscenes in D&D really don't work well. The adventure went on. We arrived in a village. We were given several quests in order to find out more about the Dread Lord King and a way into his castle, where we had to defeat him in order to escape the Dread Domain. The next encounter had us fighting a boss whose abilities were heavily based around charming the players, so I did the only logical thing: cast calm emotions on us and thus granting us immunity to the status effects. However, this was not supposed to happen. DM, now at a loss of how to make the boss challenging, got mad at me for ruining his fight for the second time. The DM has nobody but themselves to blame. If you have a cleric that's really good at the thing, and you throw the party with the thing that the cleric is good against, you have nobody but yourself to blame. It's like, let's say for example, you put a lot of locked doors, but you have a rogue with expertise with thieves tools, and they have an insane amount of dexterity, an insane amount of bonuses and benefits, and a cleric giving them guidance or something, or somebody giving them enhanced ability or something. Like, this is on the DM at that point. You make your own mess. You don't account for your players having specific features and abilities, and you set them up with something that clearly players can counter, but it goes against the story. It wasn't supposed to happen. Well, it did happen. Instead of forcing things not to happen, just roll with it. Let players obfuscate this challenge. See how the story plays out. At least make good planning. Throw in a creature that, I don't know, can fear or something, or I don't know, throw in a different creature that can do other things, or multiple creatures that clerics aren't just going to be immediately great against. Like, it's on the DM, honestly. It's on the player. Cleric is doing great. DM is just forcefully trying to make something happen when, you know, it just feels so forced. Next session I was feeling a little guilty, so I stuck to only healing spells and damaging cantrips. DM would also tell me to save my spells for remove curse, as a spell was apparently needed for the next part of the story. The fight that session was brutal, especially one fight against the king's son in an area where essentially every attack would block healing effects on a victim until the next turn, and also this time not a single turn undead would go through. The fight ended with all of us alive, in no small part thanks to the DM heavily and openly fudging rolls. The campaign went on with several more fights. At this point, I was promoted to the party heal bot. We fought some baddies, did some puzzle where I dared to cast divination, which resulted in the spell being banned. Anyway, back to being a heal bot. We also had to make friends with a tribe of friendly ghouls because that was how story was supposed to go. Never mind me being a cleric of Kenlon, because I was very clearly told that I had to leave the ghouls alive for the story. I kept my frustration mostly to myself, only asking the DM for more anti-heal mechanics, since that was kind of all I had left at this point. But I was growing bored and sick of what my character had become. Kenlon, by the way, is the god of death, or like the death domain. I have a cleric. I have a player that plays a cleric slash monk that is basically death domain cleric and astral self monk, and it's such an interesting combination. It's always fun to have that player character there, and the player is great as well too. But it makes sense why a cleric of Kenlon will find having friendly undead that are not staying dead kind of a problem. The whole point is the dead stay dead. They don't be undead, they stay dead. They stay dead. And so eventually we stormed the king's castle, fighting side by side with our ghoul allies and finally meeting the king. We were then told that the king conquered the island for a magical water stream that would save his dying wife. The description of the long-dead queen was strangely familiar to how I described my own character, however, and thus my backstory was out the window. The king proclaimed me a reincarnation of his dead wife, and I got a quick confirmation of all this from Kenlon, because I was trying to convince the king that I in fact was not, and that would go against the story. The king, angered that I would kill our son in the arena, still begged me to join him yet again in his life. What killed the king, however, me being so frustrated simply browsing my phone for the vast majority of the fight, hoping that my character would die here, since for me, the idea of my character was already gone. However, the DM got upset at me a couple of times for not paying attention to the events of the story specifically crafted for my character development. Oh, they're getting upset because you're not paying attention to the things specifically crafted for your character even though you didn't ask for it? Gee willikers, if only the DM actually thought to make a story that makes your character story relevant in some way, in some capacity, or even consider the fact that you're playing a cleric that is good against undead, has calm emotion, and could do a lot of great things other than just be a heal bot. Oh, this DM is the problem with this story. You are not at all in the slightest a problem with the story, but I can see why you'd feel discouraged and be completely checked out by the end of it. I don't think it's good for players to be checked out and like, be distracted and stuff, but in this situation, I honestly can't really blame the cleric. Their story is being rewritten and taken away because it's not supposed to be part of this story, because DM story is more important than player stories. Anyway, let's finish this. In the end, I grew disgusted with my character and felt like I was simply DM's NPC to cast spells only when he needed me to, and to serve as an important part of DM's big reveal about the king's backstory. Never got to feel like a hero in the whole campaign, and between being reduced to party healbot and the unwanted addition to my backstory, all this simply killed my idea of the character. Edit: I really should have said the DM of the story had not DM'd a campaign of this scale before. Also, the campaign is built in such a way where we rotate DMing every 3 to 4 sessions while keeping the same characters. This is our 4th episode of this campaign, meaning 3 of us already DM'd for these characters, and the characters are meant to continue in many more mini campaigns to come. The reason why I stayed in the campaign is simply because I have fun playing alongside the DM of the story when he's a PC, and I did not intend on burning all the bridges because of one frustrating experience, and I also did not want to discourage the DM completely as he is very new to DMing, and I know for a fact he worked long and hard on this campaign. Well, since you guys are friends and play together as a friend and as a party member, as a group member of this RPG group, I would say my best advice, talk to your friend and say, hey, if you want to do something like this in the future, ask me if I'm cool with it. Talk to your player if you have cool ideas, and it's like, hey, I want to include your player character into this. How about I give you a general rundown for this stuff and see if they're interested. If they're not interested, come up with a different idea or find a way to make it work without forcing and ham-fisting some sort of a story that is just forced on a player, instead of making them be involved in the story and check that, make sure that it checks out with them. Because there's nothing wrong with having a story be forced to a player character, and unfortunately the player character has to be the unfortunate victim of this and just be like, okay, well, I guess it's forced on me. I can't do much about it. Whoop-de-doo, my character's agency, story is taken away to make an NPC or DMPC or whoever else feel more important. Your character became a plot device. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.